Thank you.
It's very cool.
Oh, thank you. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Just rolling with the punches. You know,
Kinda.
there's been a lot of that going on.
Kinda.
I think we ran into each other what about 10 days ago, something like that.
Yeah, on one of those talks.
I don't know if this thing's hooking up. Let me see here. Hang on. Oh, here we go. Here we
Is
go.
this live here?
Oh, is it live? Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to check if it's going out. It has to connect to all the different platforms. What's happening? How's it going?
Now, this is my daughter, my transgender daughter, Annie.
Wow. Hi, Annie. Y'all look just alike. It's amazing.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm told.
I think we're related. I think.
You look exactly alike. It's nice to meet you, Annie.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So I invited Annie in because we've been talking a lot.
I'm all for it. You know how I am about spontaneity. And right when you said that, it was 1 minute 11 seconds into the program with 11 people.
That was a good decision.
Yeah. No, I'm honored. Absolutely honored. So now what's your name again? Annie. So are you and do you and your mom talk about like the things we talk about on this show, like, you know, paranormal, UFO, ascension?
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. A bit. It's not a major focus for me personally.
Yeah.
What's happened is,
but I'm pretty open-minded. I mean, you kind of have to be.
No, I can tell. I mean, you exude that. You exude that. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
41.
God.
Or as my daughter likes to say, 1. But
you look about 30 to me.
Why, thank you. It could be the makeup.
So Annie and I went to the park a couple of days ago. We had this really long conversation, which absolved all my maternal guilt in like one conversation. Wow. And in the end, me coming from the metaphysical, expand the universe perspective, and her coming from the transgender perspective, ended up talking about the same things pretty much the same way. And what she's doing, becoming a woman, is the same thing I'm doing, becoming myself, which is becoming myself. Yeah. And she thinks like I do, I guess, because she's my daughter. So it all seemed to fit together really good somehow. Even though she uses transgender terminology, it's the same journey.
It is. So the answer to my first question was yes, it's happening, and it says a lot because really, when you get right down to it, it's always the same thing, right? I mean, it's coming down to one thing: your sovereignty, you being you, and that's the universal code. I mean, that's the Universal Equalizer. I don't know how you describe it, but yeah, that's a great point. So you guys go to the park 2 days ago. I mean, were you working on anything? I mean, it just happened that all that got removed and integrated in that conversation.
Well, it's more of an issue of I was looking for a chance to talk, to get down to like the really, I can't think of the right term, nitty-gritty of who I am, because to be quite honest, a lot of people don't understand what kind of individual I am. They just automatically look at me and judge me based on my voice, my body. So I'm either male over the phone, female in person, until I open my mouth anyway. And the truth is, it doesn't matter. I am who I am, and that's been filtered through a lot of crap. So once you wipe away all the crap, that's when you find the person underneath. Battered, bruised, doesn't really change the core of the person. It's how much you let show.
Susan.
Yes.
What a beautiful child you've created.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we ended up talking.
And Annie, what a beautiful mother you've created. This is so cool. Yeah.
We did dump on Dad quite a bit, though. Something about the patriarchal control system.
You guys need to 0 point Dad.
Yeah, we do. He was the control system. He was
right.
the you can't be you. I own your life kind of guy.
Literally, yes.
So we talked a lot about the not distorted masculine, the divine feminine. I would use those terms. She wouldn't, but it was the same thing.
Amazing. I mean, but if you think about it, in these circles, you hear a lot more every day about embodiment. And I'm amazed at how much that means now as opposed to a year or two ago. Like, it's almost like the universe is saying, how far can you take it? And I mean that in the best of ways, like, because we all have our own experience, right? But there are many people, and I have met quite a few people in 10 years who are trans. And that takes a lot of guts. I mean, that takes a lot of guts, and it's a powerful, energetic parallel to, Susan, what you and I and our friends talk about. You're absolutely right. I mean, you basically equated you guys found oneness in the park 2 days ago, basically, right?
Redemption. Is that redemption? Like clearing away the guilt and the ambivalence and the
resurrection, redemption, reformation.
I felt I needed to give this kid, when he was a kid, something, because he was this huge soul. And I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't know how to do it for me. And I always felt guilty that I failed it somehow. But whether I failed or I didn't, she's got it.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it was transmitted anyway.
That's the thing.
So I didn't fail.
Hell no.
You didn't fail. You wound up in a situation where you couldn't express yourself, and you still managed.
I don't know if it was the situation or my state of being, but yeah, I wasn't good at that.
Well, the situation created your state of being, or altered it at the very least. So at this point, it's a matter of you passed on what's the word I'm looking for?
The message?
I guess I'm more thinking like you've passed on the fact that you had to be you no matter what the cost.
The code. It's code.
The code.
Kind of, yeah.
Sovereignty. I mean, it's sovereignty. It's individuality. It's sovereignty. I mean, stay in your own lane, that kind of thing. Yeah.
It does take embodiment to another level.
Absolutely.
Well, when it comes down to it, it's just
to another level.
Are you just happy with what you've been given, or does it need to change? And after 40 years, I can say I have 2 beautiful children who wouldn't exist if I had started transitioning 10 years earlier. So I've gone from being basically a nobody in the universe to becoming, I apologize if anyone gets bothered by it, but becoming a father, and then transitioning and becoming a second mother.
Wow.
So a lot of people, if anybody has tried to tell me that it was a sin or God made you the way you were, it's like, yes, God made me to be both father and then mother to those children.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And how are they different?
Or
are they?
Social. It's more social. The way I parented was always like a mother. The way my wife parents, she's still my wife. She parents in more of a fatherly kind of way because that's the space that was left. So
far out. Man, I want to thank y'all for coming on today. Thank you.
Really?
Synchronicity.
I have nothing to say. I don't know what to say.
Synchronicity. You guys can talk about whatever you want to. But you know, I remember 10 years ago when I woke up and I started getting involved in these communities. I made a friend, and she was in England, and her child was 18 going through. And it was beautiful. I mean, the way that they walked each other through it, and it was very interesting because I'd not really been that close to anything. I'd never even been exposed to it. It wasn't common, I don't think. But now, it's a physicalized energy, and we know that there's energy behind everything that we do. And I think it's a good sign. People, to thine own self be true. To Andy's point. Oh. You can't go wrong there.
Yeah.
That's the love that drives creation is the love for self, which is one and the same with the universe. Yeah. Beautiful.
Which I think we were trying to tell my mother the other day, but she wasn't.
Well,
it was interesting.
I think she understood and didn't understand at the same time. A bit of a duality there. She's in her 90s, right?
Yeah.
So when she was growing up, this was, how do I put this? Rare at best for someone to admit who they are. The part that's confusing to many is, in my personal case, I presented beforehand as a straight male, and that made it actually difficult because I've always been attracted to women to begin with. So saying that you're basically attracted to women and you are a woman, but you have the body of a man, nobody can say it's like, okay, if I were born a woman and I love women, I'm a lesbian. If I'm born a man and I love a woman, I'm straight. But if I'm a woman who was born a man who loves a woman, there's no appropriate term for that. Or at least no widely used term, not one that's agreed on. So it's not that it's impossible to say, it's that if people don't agree on the term to use, what do you call yourself? So the way I look at it, I'm myself. I'm Annie. I always have been, regardless of what name I had, regardless of the clothing I wore. So, and that's all anyone can ever be, themselves, not like, what was it, that line? I can't even remember who said it. Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken.
I like that. Well, to me, I mean, as the days go by, I see things more and more as energy. And to me, what you're doing is, I guess in a sense, what we're all doing to different levels of awareness and consciousness, but it's our own trip. But you're creating universes. You're in the energetic field, you're creating a free flow equilibrium of your purest intentions, which is just being yourself. I mean, Susan, I mean, I think I can speak for you. I can speak for myself. I'm pursuing the same thing. I mean, this is to me, this is God and Goddess in motion. It's love. It's the fuel that drives creation. So you're creating a new universe, and like everything else that seems to be happening in these circles, there's a network. There's a network connecting of, let's just say illuminated points on the grid like you with the same energy. And it's part of the universal grid on this earth because it's based on purity, because it's based on the love for the universe, which is seen through to thine own self be true. So yeah, what a powerful experience just to be here. And I appreciate it again. Thank you both.
So I think my trip here to come back and see my family this time is to integrate I passed too. Well, I don't like letting it go. Well, I do let it go, but you have to make it one thing. And so we went to see my mom, and we went and looked at pictures of my past and my mom's past, and it was a bizarre physical experience. It was just those pictures were pictures of, they weren't real. It was another world. It was just such a, well, it was a movie. It wasn't my life. It wasn't their life. It was a bizarre sense of dissociation. And then I was talking to Annie, and I'm pretty totally supportive and totally into this. And my mom's thing, especially for me too, as a kid, you don't support your children. You get in their way and you make it tough. And Annie and I are talking, and she's just looking at us, and so my mom's a very imposing, very powerful presence, and she's just moving back, and it's all turning gray, and this huge abyss seemed to develop between us, as if that she was also very controlling, especially when she was young. That whole system had just turned to stone and was crumbling, and it was like a visual thing, and she looked she looked sad, but she was grieving it.
Wow.
Also possibly ready to let it go. She's 96 and she's not stupid by any means. And yeah, and it was just a powerful physical experience of it's gone, and creation is all that's left. You're gonna create yourself. It's just disintegrating.
Wow, that's powerful. That describes the energy that a lot of people have been experiencing. Obviously, along with other things, other nudges and pushes and pressures and whatever. But yeah, that's powerful, because as the individual goes, so goes the collective. So you saw that abyss and you saw it dissipate and crumble. Powerful.
Yeah, it was like very, very real. It was very interesting. Yeah.
So you actually live, Susan, somewhere else, and you came to see your family, and that includes Annie and your mother.
I live on the West Coast in BC, on the Sunshine Coast, near Vancouver, sort of. And this is the East Coast, and I'm not vaccinated. And it took me 2 weeks to make this decision to come, and whether to get vaccinated and come or not get vaccinated and come. And we just went today on the metro and the bus. So I'm supposed to be dead soon, but I really don't think so. And yeah, for me, it was like, I can't even see. I just see the energy of this whole COVID thing that happened, and I see humanity's basic operating system surfacing in the attitudes and the way we handled it. I'm not saying there's no disease, but how the whole world handled it and still is. And so I can't see it. I can't. If I'm going to be true to the me that I am, I have to stick with my vision. And people would say, well, if you don't see it, doesn't mean it's not there, and people die in it, and it's real, and it is, but not really to me. I couldn't get that vaccine. I tried to convince myself to get it, and I talked to people, and I researched, and I just couldn't do it. And when I finally decided to come, they said they would be happy to have me since they're all vaccinated. Then all of a sudden, people who would have said, don't do it, went, just go, have a good time, wear a mask, be careful, have a blast. I'm going, what? It's like just all the support flipped instantly as soon as I made the decision to just do it.
The idea was never to say don't come. The idea was to say be safe. That's it.
Behave?
Safe.
Be safe. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to be careless, but I couldn't do the vaccine. I just couldn't.
So many people are careless to begin with. It's really difficult. So that's the thing. I'm not even thinking about. I did get vaccinated in part for myself, but I also got vaccinated because I have a lot of stuff that I need to do. I can't always stay inside the house all the time. People to meet, doctor's appointments to get to, blood tests, and I can't have it on my mind all the time that my safety is more important, because it's not. If I'm healthier, then the others around me can be healthier. That was the whole purpose of my transition in the first place, was so I could start being healthier. For myself, for my kids, for my spouse, for everyone. So that's all that I was coming from when I said you should I didn't know what the restrictions were going to be at that point. Things might have relaxed a bit. They might tighten up again. I don't know. But you're here already. So
it was just interesting. As soon as I made the decision, all the restrictions fell. Called the airline. They said, "No, you don't need a test. You don't need anything. You don't need a vac. Just come."
Yeah, because you're staying within Canada. It's when you cross the border that makes a bit of a.
Well, that's the same energy to me. Your energy's creating a new universe. It's and together. I mean, so this is another example too. You guys are sitting in the same room discussing this, respecting each other's where you're coming from, and you have a unified field, which is amazing. I mean, this is amazing. This is the type of energy that's actually constructing this world, and I think we're past the tipping point now. We're definitely gonna start seeing physical evidence of that. And it only makes sense to start in those circles closest to us, like your family.
Yeah, so as an artist, it was like creative process. But that doesn't just apply to art, it applies to everything. I got that when I learned it many years ago. But how do you apply it to everything? Well, it just applies to everything. This is creation, and that's all it is. And
it applies however it's going to. Whether you're using a brush, a typewriter, a video camera, or just your words.
Or your life, or your energy, or anything. And I have still yet to see a spaceship or talk to an alien. The thing that I do find, though, is like what I call creative process, which I learned somehow telepathically from this teacher who taught it to me. He would say one thing and I'd know it. 40 things he didn't say. But if I was listening to Franco on some other show, and like word for word, he's saying what I think, how I see it, the way it works for me. He talks about creative a lot. We have to create it. If we don't create it, it isn't here. Word for, so I don't know. So the Galactic Federation of Light says everything I think, and I think it's me thinking it. I've never had these personalized, objective experiences, but that's where I am anyway. And I think, I don't know if it's me or who cares.
I'm totally inspired. I mean, you've gone home, you've connected with a generation forth, a generation back. There's a real authenticity being displayed in the field. You've got your 96-year-old mother, you've got your beautiful daughter, Annie, you got all your other relatives, and you're doing you, and then you go out and do your hair pink and purple, and it's sexy as hell. I mean, this is it. We're supposed to play, and it's that energy, that creative energy has a playful force. I mean, it's so many things, but we're never going to find out unless we keep doing it.
Yeah, I just keep going. It's like 1 minute at a time. I get up in the morning, I go, I don't know what to do. I have no plans. I have no life. I don't know. And by the time the day is half finished, I've done 12 things, and I'm doing I have grandkids here too, so there's stuff and it's all full, and can't plan it though. And it changes every 10 minutes and like that. It's just creating itself.
There's some things you have to plan, doctor's appointments and such. But
until they get canceled, then you have to reschedule, and then you have to.
But the point is, you don't live for those appointments. You don't live for the things that you have to do. You live in the moments between.
But that's not how it used to be. It is now.
That's not how Dad taught me to live. That's how I chose to live. Is it's just more pleasant like that. I can spend time. I don't choose a TV show to say watch with my spouse after the kids go to bed. We do what the mood takes us, and sometimes we have a good time, sometimes we don't with the show, and then we do something else. We go for walks. We have meaningful conversations that last until 4 in the morning when I'm supposed to be up at 7 in order to bring the kids to school. Like these are the things you can't plan, but these are the things that are the most important. Regardless of whether the name that you give it, all that to me, the important thing, this is just from my perspective, the important thing is the relationship between two people. Oh, however many sets of relationships that you have. I have a different relationship with my son, with my daughter, with my spouse, with my mother. But these relationships are all important. If I wind up concentrating too much energy on one side, the other side is going to wind up suffering, and it's just not going to wind up going anywhere good. And that's what I never used to understand. I was too wrapped up in myself. And when I started living for myself and living for my family, I started seeing. How do I put this? It's like looking at a building that's been standing there your entire life, and all of a sudden seeing all the scaffolding that was there when the building was first built. Only the scaffolding was there the entire time.
Yeah.
So there's this field of a whole field that all the parts are in.
In essence, it's like realizing you've been living your entire life on a chessboard and you're really starting to see where the pieces go. Like, there's all sorts of little analogies I could give, but when it comes down to it, I form a connection with every word I say, with every thought I make. The question is whether it's a new connection or reinforcing one that exists. Do I have any way of seeing these connections? Let's be fair, life is not a video game. I can't push a button on a keyboard and suddenly see all of these stats and all of these little lines that I couldn't see. But
can you feel them?
After a fashion. It's kind of like closing your eyes and imagining something and realizing that you're just seeing without visually seeing.
See, he got it. She got it.
Yeah.
The 5-year-old got it.
The 5-year-old finally grew up.
Maybe always had it.
What, a year or so ago? Year and a half ago now? I realized that it wasn't okay sitting there huddling behind this golem of a persona, just realizing it was time to stop being protected by a constructed figment of your imagination and start being yourself.
Boom.
And
I'm not necessarily saying that this is something that's specific to trans individuals. I think this is something that everybody experiences.
Absolutely, it is.
Whether they know it or not.
I mean, I was going to ask you. So a lot of people, and really, I would say the energy of this show, period, of Soulogy is about transformation. And a lot of people have a very similar story, you know, when you get past the surface description of it. And there was something brewing in them. At some point, it came out and wouldn't be stopped. They've gone through a process of ebb and flow, but they've been more self-empowered and a higher quotient of love for themselves as the journey's gone on. I would just be curious, like in your case, because you definitely have healthy levels of self-respect, self-honor, self-awareness, you know, confidence. Did you go through that? How easy or not or difficult was it to actually take the first step, you know, with those loved ones closest to you? I mean, did it take you a while to get to that point? Did you just have like a wake up one day and go, I'm just going to do this?
It was, there's always been there to one extent or another. There was a point when my father was diagnosed with lung cancer, stage 4, that I started feeling frightened because he was my big excuse for not being myself. Mm-hmm. No matter what, he wouldn't accept me for who I was, so I automatically applied that to everyone else around me. and that created a certain fear of that particular part of me opening up, and just kind of all of the beautiful parts of my personality started muting. It was basically, I would say it's what most people would call depression. So the way I see it now is that was just me being too scared. As I mentioned, I look at it like the personality that I was before was a golem, a construct to protect me. So that individual was threatened by my fear. That individual, that, let's be fair, it is me in another aspect, was basically saying, if you get rid of that fear, I don't exist. There's no reason for me to exist anymore. And of course, like just about anybody else, that part of me wanted to keep existing. What part of a person of any type would want to stop existing? Without major reason to, obviously. So it took about 5 years. My father died about 4 years later, give or take, and it took me another year before I got to the point where I basically reached out, spoke with my spouse at length, and over the course of about a month got to the point where I felt brave enough to tell her, even though that took me about 2-3 different tries to start. And the big problem was that I had this fear of, it wasn't a fear of being alone, it was a fear of being totally alone. She was my main supporter in everything I did in life.
Wow.
So without her support, I didn't feel like I could do it. And honestly, I still feel like I should have come out 5 years earlier, but that's another story. What it wound up being was an issue of I couldn't I couldn't hide behind the golem much longer. One way or another, it was going to stop. And I definitely do not want to even think about Plan B. I have 2 kids that I could never abandon.
Wow.
So it was pretty much that or nothing. And I was extremely lucky that she was willing, through, like I said, lots and lots of talking. I think it was 3 or 4 months straight, almost every night we were talking until at least 2, usually 4 in the morning. Still having, this was still April, May, I think, May.
Of this year?
Last year.
Of last year, okay.
So we had the kids at home. They were being homeschooled.
Yeah.
And we still had to keep up their education at the same time. So we were exhausted all the time, but we were happier than we had ever been before because we were just being honest. Like that one thing that sounds like such a small thing to hide to some people, for me, it was everything.
Yeah.
It colored everything. It destroyed a lot more than it fixed. And at this point, I'm just trying to live my life and be myself, but I realized that people don't understand me. They don't understand who I am simply because I don't fit into their personal view of the world. And I don't judge anybody based on their identity. I can't do that. I've done that to myself for long enough, and that was poisonous. I'm not going to ever judge someone based on their identity. Your actions, yes, but not things like, I don't care who you love, who you sleep with. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care if you're not a gender. If you these things are not what make you you. What makes you you is your thoughts, your feelings, your actions. So that's how that's how I made a conscious choice that that's how I'm going to relate to people. So a lot of people have told me that that as a parent, I'm failing my kids by being honest with them about who I am. To them, I would easily say, I'm failing my kids by letting them think that it's okay to hate somebody based on their sexuality or their gender. I'm failing my kids saying it's okay to hate yourself for any reason. And
powerful.
That was all I was for 5 years, literally sitting in the washroom with a video game on my phone and not interacting with the real world at all.
Yeah.
Purposefully distracting myself.
Yeah.
Sorting through, figuring out what it meant to be myself. Never found that in a video game of any kind.
I bet you and your spouse listening to the the way it happened. I mean, just the presence to speak every night till 2:00 in the morning, get up and still do what you need to do for the family for 3-4 months. I mean, that's some serious purity and sovereignty and unconditional love and reverence and honor being woven into the grid. These are the things that are creating the new earth. This is amazing, even to be, these are the fairy tales. These are the fairy tales. This energy, it's Soulogy. I am soul. I am soul. You are soul. I love what you said about, I've never heard somebody actually speak the words and say, I do not judge someone, or you actually said, I refuse to judge anyone by their identity. All I can say to that, and fucking A, man. Fucking A. You know?
Yeah. Well, it was what was done to me, and it did damage that's taken a long time to even start repairing. If I do that to somebody else, I'm no better than the bullies that I grew up with. And honestly, I believe a lot of those bullies I grew up with must have changed over the years. They must be at least somewhat better people because they understand the world better. So, if I believe that they're better, regardless of whether they are or not, that's not the issue. If I believe they had the chance to be better, then why can't I be better?
Yeah.
Why can't I be the person that I really feel I was supposed to be?
I mean, that's so powerful. And you've said it several times. I'm just going to say it again because you've said it many different ways. But these bullies, for example, the thought that you project forward isn't fluffy love and light. You're actually going, hey, I know you can expand and be better. Like you, as opposed to, because I mean, what you're talking about is the power of thought. Even if it's in here, just like, if I look at that person as their identity, then I'm creating that in the field. It's just like with your kids. I would flip what they said the other way around. Why would I energetically transmit to my children that it's okay to put a mask on? That it's okay to hide yourself. Like there's something wrong with you, like you put it a different way, but it was the same thing. I mean, this is extremely powerful. This is the kind of frequency that needs to be out in the mainstream.
Yeah.
It's more than we're creating reality, which is cuts edge a little bit. We're creating a world. We're creating the world.
I don't even look at it as we're creating reality because if I look at reality as a kind of an energy.
Yes.
You can't create or destroy energy. You can only transform it.
Okay.
So we're not so much creating the reality as reshaping it in order to show the truth.
Yeah,
So,
very good.
well, in my case, it's a little bit more complex than it is for some, but truth is truth.
This
It
is
doesn't
awesome.
matter.
But truth is truth.
This
It
is
doesn't matter
awesome.
where you believe it comes from. It doesn't matter if it's divine in origin, alien in origin, internal in origin. It's all different ways of saying the same thing. The truth is what things really are. Just because my outsides and my insides don't match doesn't mean I'm not being my true self. I've seen this woman right here go from a situation where she was maybe not in the classic way, but she was controlled, she was abused, and she got out, and she, without knowing what she was doing, she lived her life as herself, not the way somebody else wanted her to live her life. She's been doing this for long enough that it's like she said, getting up without a plan in the morning, just taking life as it comes. This is someone who could not have done that 30 years ago. And even though I don't live on the same side of the continent as she does, I've seen her come into herself. I've seen her grow. I've seen her become something bigger than I grew up with. What kind of child would I be not to look at a parent doing that and saying that that's amazing? And I don't think I actually said that to you. That is amazing.
And the circle,
that's good.
Yeah, and the circle will be unbroken.
No, yeah, or it'll spill.
Well, because I mean, Annie's aligned with that, and Annie and your spouse projecting that to these children, and these children, regardless of whether you're in light worker circles or not, because we're not any smarter than anybody else. We just talk about some things. But these children are lit. These children are tuning forks at a higher frequency already. So, you take that whole thing that you bring out so well, the power of thoughts. Think about the incredible expansive mind of a young child being in that environment. They process the information, the good information that they're given, the truth that they're given, the realness, and then them putting out creative energy, higher intelligent code. I mean, this is awesome. I'm honored to be here.
What did it turn around and face the future? It turns everything around. Everything was facing the past, and then turn it around and face the future.
Kind of.
I guess we did it. Yeah. We turned it around.
But if you think of how many, I mean, really, if you think of how many people in this world in the last, say, 10 years have embraced themselves and expanded their power and sovereignty and creative abilities and imprint on the earth in the same way Annie has. I mean, a lot of people like that come on this show, but I mean, I think of someone like Annie and I go, okay, how much of an impact does that have compared to some asshole who refuses to look at anything, whatever? I know that an imprint like Annie's has got to be 1,000,000 times bigger. It's reaching people that don't even see her face or hear her voice. It's energy, and it's happening more and more around this world. But this is an amazing example because there's so many things you guys bring to the table.
But in some ways, I'm still very much in my childhood energy, which was kind of like here between my dad telling me I was light and and I would see the world and all humanity change, and my mother screaming, "Shut up!" And it's the same child who goes see evidence that my dad was right, because I was on my dad's side of the table, and so this is evidence. I knew I was right. I knew that's the side to go on, and yet the energy is stronger than the profession, than what people say, than what the social field presents. The energy will move it all.
Very true.
Or it is moving it all, and we're just going with it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. I'm really.
I know.
Pleased.
I mean, that stillness was nice. Everything just kind of like, it was nice. This is a very unique conversation. I'm just honored to be here. Were there any other family members you want to bring in while we're here?
Kids are probably on their video game.
Annie and your spouse would be good. That would be good.
I think she's sleeping at the moment,
Yeah,
or lying down.
I'm just. But the invitation's always there. It's a powerful thing, these personal stories, because it used to be about where we came from, right? Mm-hmm. Like I went homeless for 2 years, and and then and everyone has their story, their hero's journey. Mm-hmm. But it's not so much about where we came from anymore. It's about what we're doing now. That's what I'm seeing in people like Annie and your spouse. That's just as prominent a soul, and I don't even know them. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. That's good. Very good.
No,
you have to say that you're the one who told me that growing up you learned more from watching Doctor Who than you did from going to school. So
that's
kind of turned in that direction from the beginning.
It was a bit. It was a good thing to be fair, when it comes down to it, when you're going to school, you're learning what they're teaching you. When you're watching Doctor Who, you're not there to learn. You're there to watch and to enjoy a story, but the story has so many levels in it that
it's galactic.
Everybody's going to see something different.
Yeah.
And that's why I loved it, because I never saw the same episode twice and saw the same aspect of it.
Yeah.
And it's just like life. I can walk down the street 5 days in a row, see the exact same people on all those days, and the details are going to be different. But some people are going to be the exact same and going along with the same path as they do every day. And others are going to be a step ahead one day, a step behind another day. And those are the ones who make more of an impression. Ones who are not out of step with the world around them, but not forcing themselves to be in step. That are just living. And those are the people who I see having the happy conversations, and those are the people who I see enjoying the world around them. The rest are just rushing from one place to another, and not really enjoying the trip, not really. Like, for example, if I would take my son to day camp, because he's going to day camp now, there would be days where everybody's in a great mood. We're going around having amazing conversations. He just turned 7 a few months ago, and he has some of the most unusual conversations with him. A lot of it refers back to video games, but when it comes down to it, he's using them as a way to interact with the world around him. My daughter's the same. She's almost 9. And she has this interesting habit of asking you the big questions. How does this work? How does that work? How does the world fit together? Only at bedtime. But she's asking when her perception is at its least focused, so she can like take in the entire world, whatever you're saying. So sometimes I say it's too late to talk about this, ask me tomorrow when we're awake. Other times I go through like a big conversation with her, very abbreviated because it's still bedtime, of course. But the line between it's that feeling that the line between being a parent and being a person barely exists. The line that between the way it's, as I said, it's proof the way I treat you is the way I treat you as the person you are, not the person who you want me to pretend you are. So okay, I give in. I'm pretty sure she tricks me into letting her stay up a little bit late some nights.
There's still a genius behind it, though.
Exactly. But if letting her stay up a little bit longer has a positive effect on her in the long run, saying that you can come and talk to me about anything without being judged, then then that's the real message.
Yeah.
We all say we want everybody to be happy, but how many of us actually really genuinely want everybody to be happy? Like honestly, I have a lot of people who who insult me and try to take me down every day through. If you use Twitter as an example, it's pretty toxic there sometimes. But I refuse to let them harm me because I'm not that same person, that golem who is afraid of the world. I used the knowledge that I gained during that time and just use it. Because there's a lot of stuff that I learned that I didn't even know I knew. And once you have the right filter, once you can draw the lines yourself, you can see a lot more of this world than people show you.
Can you say that again? What did you say? The first part of that.
When you use it, it's like using a different filter.
Yeah. But right before you said that, you said you started to see things you didn't see, or when you started to see something like that.
Yeah, when I started to see lines, I started to see connections that I had not seen before.
Yeah.
Like, these are the same kind of things that if you ask a million different people, will each have a completely different answer, whether it's physical, metaphysical, psychological, interaction, whatever word you want to use for it. There's 100,000 different connections every person makes online every time that they're online. They hurt some people, they help some people, and they're doing it all without really realizing this is who they really feel like they are. So you can tell somebody's real intentions by what they say when they don't think you're watching. So I go through this whole thing and I look at it like it is a completely different world.
Yeah.
But I've made some stronger connections with some of the people, whether positive or negative, stronger connections with these people that I've met online and had conversations. I couldn't tell you if I've changed anybody's mind or educated them in any way, but it feels like you can make these connections that you couldn't make before. And this is all that's happened just since COVID started. Since we've been in many places relegated to staying in our lane, in our house, in our whatever, in order to be ourselves. Some people would just sit there and not improve. Some people would sit there and study courses, and then some people would go out and just talk to each other. And I've had more meaningful conversations with people trying to make me feel bad about myself that have actually made me look at parts of myself and say, no, this is not exactly who I want to be. This is not.
Yeah.
If this is how they're seeing me, what am I doing that's making them see me that way? If it's something that's on their end that you can never change, well, fuck that. It doesn't make a difference. If it's something that I said that genuinely hurt somebody without intending to,
yeah,
I apologize. I sometimes explain, sometimes I don't. It all depends on the situation. And then I live my life. But these little things have made me improve myself, have made me look at the world differently, have made me look at my mother differently, have made me look at my father differently. We're in a million different ways, we're affected by every individual around us, whether it's a physical or a metaphysical or a psychological energy. And we can either sit there under the onslaught of the negativity and crumple up into a little ball of clay and just die. Or we could use the energy, change the negative into positive and feed it back into the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, you don't need to believe in metaphysical energy for that to still be
does that whole what you just described so eloquently, is that innate? Do you feel that's innate in you or us?
I think it's in everyone. If you have the ability to feel energy, you have the ability to shape it. It's just most people don't know that they can do it, or don't care that they can do it, or whatever. But I think
have you I mean, like in your case, have you read books, studied, listened to videos, or have you kind of followed your own guidance and developed this? Because it's what you're talking about. I mean, in some circles would be called, in my opinion, the trajectory or the description or the representation of mastery. Like you're in order for you to see energy and truly see it, which has nothing to do with someone's level of compassion, there's no judgment, right? So like you said that, I refuse to look at anyone based on their identity. I mean, so I'm sitting here for the last hour and I'm absolutely enjoying the hell out of myself. And I'm seeing these not just one, two, and then together y'all make a third one. I mean, and then some of the 2 or 3 topics brought up, those are in and of themselves showing me that there is no limit, that the real creative power is in the embodiment, not just in our bodies, in anchoring metaphysical energy, or however you want to put it, but also the actual very human things that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So Annie, I can't even tell you. I mean, I helped raise 6 kids. I'm familiar with the routines. I'm familiar with the social part of that, schools and shopping and just glimpsing into what your experience must be every day. You are one powerful being. Both of you are, because you're so open to each other, which is really it's the inside of you, each of you individually, being expressed on the outside of you. And here we go with the Trinity energy. This is amazing. You guys have got
talking about that the other day, were you?
Yeah.
Where 2 make 3, and I don't know, whatever.
Well, I would imagine there's quite a few triads in your little family circle, with those kids, with your spouse, with you, even with your mom. In some yin yangish kind of an incomprehensible way from the human level, but yeah, her energy is definitely a catalyst, just as y'all are a catalyst for each other. Sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it feels good, and sometimes it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't feel so good.
It's true, but as long as it's always real.
Well, like you said, Annie, but like you said, there people come at you who are totally off. I'm just going to put the words in, but totally like out of place to even be saying something. Let me just put it that way. Mm-hmm. Yet you look at them not as an indifference in terms of how you look at them as a person. You look at what's said, regardless of where it came from, and have the balls to look at it and go, maybe they're right. I have a friend, and he says, I have a friend. I know I have a gutter mouth. I have a friend who says, you're perfect until someone tells you you're not. The first time I heard that, I was like, wait a minute. But think about it. We're beating along and everything's good and we're getting a handle on things, and somebody says something. And then that opens up the
doubt is the difficulty. I've never done any kind of formal or informal training of any kind. It's just my worldview is based very much on a literal view of the world. It's like I don't believe personally in organized religion. I believe that it makes me feel good to look at it and believe that there's a God. But that doesn't mean that any person can tell me that their version of God is the correct version.
Yeah.
It's like
there's 8 billion people, and there's 8 billion paths up that mountain.
Maybe more.
Well, and it goes back. Yeah, maybe more. You're right. It goes back to what you said earlier about the lines. Like when you were telling me that, what I was like, this was a good example because there's all these different schools of thought, right? Or let's just say streams of consciousness or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you're saying I can see you can see the connectivity. You can see what connects, and that I loved when you described that, because that's a pretty good description from the ground level of what waking up can look like, where you start to see how everything is connected, and then of course start to work with it by guarding, or by being responsible for your thoughts, words, and actions.
Kind of like seeing the Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
If we're all
hey, I'd love to do this again. This is awesome. I'd love to.
Thank you very much, Todd.
Hey, thank you for being spontaneous. I'm absolutely, you know how I feel about that. I have to ask Andy one more question. From your perspective, all the way out from, I mean, you've shared with us very openly, and thank you very much for that. All the way out to the global stage, or even beyond, how far you want to take it. There's a lot of talk about what's going on. This is a period of time that's been prophesized in many, many texts, and we can get into all kinds of different narratives of how we got here. But just being that you're not in these communities, I'm just curious, because your story energetically fits with my own and your mom's and everybody else's, and your outlook, and what the hell do you think's going on? What do you think's happening? What's your take on the big picture? What do you think?
The big picture, from my perspective, now I'm just going to say this is my perspective. I don't expect anyone to agree with me.
Yeah.
This is not necessarily a short-term thing. It's very, very long-term in my mind. But as a species, we've been evolving for millions of years, one way or another. Whether it's scientifically or spiritually, or however you want to look at it. And like any child growing up, there's periods where you go through growing pains. The bed doesn't quite fit anymore, you're cramped, you keep your legs in the wrong situation, too many stuffies in the bed, whatever the reason is. You end up sleeping the wrong way, you get up and you're in a bad mood all day. that seems to me to be happening on a mostly global scale more and more, especially since COVID hit. But if I'm being honest, I'm pretty sure it was already heading that way. I'm feeling like we're in a period of global growing pains, evolutionary growing pains, that we're not currently the same people we're going to be, assuming we're given the chance to, in 100 or 200 years. And I'm not saying that I'm even going to be alive then. I don't think I would really want to live that long, but I believe that in one way or another I'll be able to see it, whether it's rebirth or just looking from beyond, or whatever it is.
I give him 15 years. And it'll be so different. 15 years. You don't have to wait 200 years.
To be fair, in the 60s, we thought we were going to have flying cars by now. We still don't have that. Not functional.
I don't know. The 60s. The 60s was powerful, but the technology wasn't even like I never. Hell, I remember when the first video game came out. It was that Pong, and the soccer on whatever that was. That must have been 1972, 73. So
not sure the exact time, but
the technology's definitely exploded in the last 10 years, which has really accelerated. Yeah.
If we compare, these used to be on Star Trek, fantasy, science fiction. We had no idea that we would wind up having anything like that.
True story. Yeah. But Susan, you got any parting comments? Anything you want to say?
I could talk a lot.
Yeah, that was a lot. Yeah, I just feel very reassured, that integration I was looking for. Yeah. My dad's prophecy it's happening. I guess it could take 200 years. It ain't taken 200. It's happening now, real fast. And,
I'm not judging on that.
And that tons of people don't even believe me, or would argue with me, or don't want to believe me. But this is evidence. So is I looking for evidence?
You guys are evidence. You guys are evidence. This particular episode is evidence.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I mean, we're at the point.
My dad is smiling.
The other great thing about the energy that people bring to the table, like Annie, is when you bring the real to the table, there is no discussion. The discussions go away. That's the whole point. Everybody when we're all ourselves, there are no questions asked other than childlike wonder and curiosity. You know what I mean? Thriving conversations, thriving connections. We're all too busy loving the universe through ourselves. I mean, this is where our souls are going. It's amazing. I'm honored. I'm a bit overwhelmed by this whole experience. I just want to say thank you so much. I'd love to do it again, and for sharing space with us, both of you, and honoring us with your presence. Yeah. So
it was totally fun.
I hope that I don't hope. I don't believe in that word. I know that your integration will continue to expand over there while you're there, and just want to say too, thank you both for what you're doing from the soul level, because this is what expands this consciousness and this awareness in this world in our lives. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All
totally, right. Obviously. Yes.
Peace out, ladies. Talk to you later. Till the